What's good, folks? Hello, everybody, and welcome to Against the Fence. We're back again for another UFC Aftermath, the last Aftermath of 2024. Welcome on in. Hope you're doing well. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world currently. Let us know where you're watching from. Don't forget to interact with us via the chat bar or in the comment section as well. If you're watching this video the next day, good to be finally find out what you want to see next from some of the main card fighters from this past weekend's UFC 310, and get some of your thoughts on perhaps what could headline UFC 313 happening next year as well. So welcome on in, smash a like on the video. Yes, Ash, hello to you, sir, and hello to Breezy as well. Got some topics for you guys tonight. We're going to be discussing that Pantoja call out he made after his fight against Kai Asakura. He called out Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson, the flyweight GOAT. We'll also be talking about what's next in the welterweight division and how the title picture could play out here, because we've learned some things about Shavkat Rakhmonov going into the fight against Ian Machado Gary. So we might not get the matchup title fight that we are expecting to get in the next one. We'll also talk about perhaps maybe a Gane versus Volkov rematch, because it was a very close fight this weekend. Some people felt that Volkov should have walked away with the decision win. It was Gane who got the win in the end, but yeah, we'll talk about what's next. It's all right, Breezy. We're gonna be coming back next year with even bigger shows as always. Mate, we're going to learn, we're going to grow, and it's going to be fantastic. And, yeah, the last topic, we'll talk about that 313 main event guest, because I've got a bit of a big guest for that one. It's going to be at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. I think they're going to put on a pretty big fight, and there is, I would say, a bit of a clue that came out recently in the MMA media, which might suggest what the headliner shall be. Myself and Ash talked about it yesterday, actually. So no spoilers, Ash, no spoilers. Let's keep the show rolling as always. Let's recap then some events that happened perhaps during the prelims. The only prelim I was able to see, I didn't really see much of Dominic Reyes versus Anthony Smith fight. I was setting up in the process, I think. I caught Luque submission against Garimbo. I must admit, that was so slick from Luque. And, you know, it's almost like he's back, you know, back to his best as Luque, which is good to see. But for how long is a bit of the question, right? Garimbo, though, however, 33 years of age, and Luque 33 as well. So both in similar age. But Luque's like lost to some top people. Buckley, well, I guess Buckley's now made a bit of a rise, isn't he? So that loss doesn't look so bad after all. But the Jeff Neal loss and the Bilal Muhammad loss were a bit of a shame to see. The other prelim, I did go and watch the Movsar Evelev versus Aljamain Sterling fight, and I've got an interesting take on that, which I think you might be a bit surprised about, because I decided to watch it and score it as I was watching it, and going through it round by round, I felt that Aljamain Sterling did enough to win that one. He secured the back mount and had control for most of the round. Round two actually gave to Movsar Evelev. He secured the takedown himself that time, landed the most effective strike of the round, and controlled most of it as well. So pretty damn clear. 1-1 headed into the third round. And then the third round is where it gets pretty close, right? Aljo secured more takedowns in that round. He had Evelev up against the cage and established quite a lot of control time in the round. However, Evelev was able to achieve a more dominant position, which was securing the back mount in that round, which Aljo wasn't able to do. Level of strikes on the ground, I think, was relatively close. Nobody landed anything massive or significant. So for that reason, I kind of gave Evelev the third round and actually felt that he won the fight. Evliv continues to march on. We'll go into the rankings a little bit later in that division, perhaps to talk about what's next for him. But he keeps being in these close fights. You know, the Arnold Allen fight was close. Controversial moment with the knee strikes to the head. The Diego Lopez fight was very close as well. Fought off many submission attempts in that fight. Fight of the night and got the decision there. And, you know, he's still yet to register a finish in the UFC, yet he's ranked so high up there. And he's calling for the title shot. Actually, no, sorry, he's not necessarily calling for the title shot. I think in recent interview, he just said, look, I'm happy to just continue fighting whoever the UFC give me. It doesn't really matter. I will get the belt one day, however. So, look, it's kind of good for him to, I guess, feel that way and to come out that way. But, yeah, staying patient for now. I think his time will come eventually. Don't get me wrong. All right, cool. Smash a like on the video, guys. We are going to... Let's get into some of the events from the main card then while we're here. Going in... Bosh. Wrong one. There we go. First fight of the main card. Do Ho Choi picking up the TKO victory against Nate Landwehr in round 3. Now, I kind of said that Choi's grappling skills have improved in previous fights, and he gave Landwehr a tough time in that area, and it almost seemed like Landwehr didn't really get going with his strikes on the feet, and Choi's ability to mix up his offense was very good. He was landing that uppercut, which he kind of likes to land quite often, and he likes to tag to the body and then work up top as well, and that really was effective for him. I think he may have had the reach advantage as well, so that was a bit of a factor heading into this fight. And what's next for him, I think, is going to be quite exciting. Yes, that's right, Si. That is the place to be, my son. After this fight, I think he expressed interest in fighting Bryce Mitchell. Let's head into the rankings. What's really annoying for us in the UK, I don't know if it's updated for you guys in the US, we don't have updated rankings, which is really frustrating. I'm going to continue to update them whilst we're live on stream, and if I can pull them through via browser source, then I will. But at the moment, I don't see any updates. Because I did read on X today that apparently Asakura is ranked 14 at flyweight now, and Pantoja is now moved up in the pound-for-pound rankings, and he's in at number 8. So movements have been made, but we just can't see him at the moment. So we'll go off what we've currently got over here. And as we can see, that Bryce Mitchell currently in at number 13. Choi, I don't think Choi was ranked today or not. Not that I'm aware of, not that I've seen. But should he fight a ranked opponent next, I guess, is what's a bit of a question here. Do you guys think he should fight Bryce Mitchell, or do you think that Bryce Mitchell should maybe fight up in the rankings? Because he's, all right, you know, he got deaded by Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett's a little bit ahead of him. He had a good showing against Dan Ige, who's mostly a boxer. 0 grappling to his game. He fought a fellow grappler who, let's face it, wasn't great, and we'll get into that in a minute. So, looking above him now, you got Giga Jakarta. Does Giga want to fight another wrestler? I mean, he's not really... I guess Arnold Allen kept it mostly on the feet, I think, in that fight. He's not really been tested properly against a proper wrestler as Giga. But he's coming off a loss, so pretty hard for him to accept a fight against someone like Bryce Mitchell. Lerone Murphy deserves to fight up, so but stay away from Lerone. It's not happening. Calvin Kattar is a possible one. He's been out since UFC 300. He's quite injury prone. Don't know what his situation is at the moment. He's on a 3-fight losing skid. Only 1 win in his last 5, which was against Giga Jakarta. So maybe Bryce Mitchell versus Calvin Kattar makes a lot of sense. Aljo's also coming off a loss. If Aljo's sticking around, which I'd imagine he will, Aljo could fight Josh Emmett or even a Bryce Mitchell, you know? I mean, it's a bit of a setback for Sterling if some people did believe that he beat Movsar Evelev. And maybe the UFC might want to give Sterling a better fight that's going to get people a bit more excited. Maybe perhaps a Brian Ortega anyway. Because Brian Ortega's in there at number 6, just below Evelev. So, look, that's what I would say. But that's kind of a bit on the featherweight division. As for Nate Landwehr, though, I've got one option for him. It makes sense if he wants to stay active, heal up, and maybe perhaps come back in March where he could fight Nathaniel Wood. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that Wood deserves somebody ranked. However, I can't see the UFC giving it to him because he's been out for quite a little while. And I believe he's expressed interest in this fight before. Landwehr has been somebody who's been sitting just outside the rankings there. If you were to extend the rankings to 20, he might be a 19 or an 18, perhaps. So, yeah, I think Woods is a great fight for him. However, for Wood, he's very well-rounded, and I think he gives Landwehr some problems. I really do. So, look, if you're a UK Brit, I mean, look, someone like Landwehr is a great fight for Nathaniel Wood to put on that fight night card in March. But, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Heading on back then, which was our second fight of the night, which was still in the featherweight division. Bryce Mitchell getting it done. And what I liked about Bryce in this fight was his ability to adapt as the fight went on. Kron was doing the same thing over and over again, where he was just kind of like falling into Bryce and then looking to pull guard. And then late in the fight, in that third round, when he attempted to pull guard again, Bryce was like, do you know what? Sod this. I'm just going to slam you. And, of course, that probably knocked the back of his head. You can make an argument that should be an illegal move, but it's not. And it worked in Bryce's favour because he was then able to create some space, posture up, and just land an immediate elbow to the dome, which kind of put Kron away. And it's a great win for Bryce, but in a way, I didn't feel like this fight should have been made anyway, because Kron was just coming off of a loss against Charles Jourdain, who's outside of the rankings, and now he gets to fight a grappler who's in the rankings. It made no sense to me. It was like, is Nate Diaz your manager? Is your Nate just rocked up to Hunter Campbell and be like, yo, if you want to do a deal with Conor McGregor, do the third fight or whatever, give my boy Conor a ranked opponent? And they were like, well, yeah, okay. You know, Nate puts bums in seats. Let's just give Nate what he wants. But, you know, other than that, I don't see an excuse for why this fight was made. For Gron Gracie, Dana called for him to retire. I think maybe he could do that. You know, it's 2 poor performances in a row, in my opinion. I think he landed the odd strike or 2, which looked pretty good on the feet. But other than that, Mitchell was in control for the whole fight. I didn't really feel like it was that competitive, you know, and needs to adapt as an MMA fighter instead of a jiu-jitsu player. You know, this ain't jiu-jitsu. Now, don't be wrong, I think there's a place for Kron in the Fight Pass Invitational that the UFC put on. They're going to be wanting more people. You got Mikey Musumeci, who's in the mix. Similar weight. That's your next opponent if Mikey Musumeci gets it done against his current fight that he's booked. So that's what I would say is next for Kron Gracie. For Bryce, if you've got any other options, pop them in the comment section, pop them in the chat bar as well. Let's hear what you've got. Anybody outside of the rankings as well, very welcome. I'm sure there's going to be some other interesting fights for him that maybe perhaps I've not thought of. I mean, look, I've had such a busy day today. It's that time of year, isn't it, with Christmas? Work's just absolutely killing. But, you know, we've put a show together. We're here anyway. and we've got lots to talk about still. So let's get moving on by. Ash says, yeah, shocked the fight was made, and we can see because of the result. Yeah, shouldn't have happened. And I hope Bryce gets a better matchup next time. Sure it'll happen. Moving on then to the third fight with a bit of controversy. Ciryl Gane gets the nod via split decision. I mean, the takeaways what we've seen from this fight was the fact that Ciryl needs to kind of adapt his game a little bit more because fighters are clearly starting to figure him out and figure out how to deal with him as a fighter. And we saw that in Volkov. Volkov had to kind of completely change his game plan and almost try and force a brawl with Gane at times, right? And he just didn't give Gane the time and space to really set up his strikes and set up his feints. He was on the front foot the whole time, and he mixed up his offense. However, on the side to the result and everything, Gane did injure his foot in the first round. The X-ray was seen on social media Sunday at some point. That was uploaded. So, look, okay, yeah, he was compromised to some degree. Let's talk about Volkov's performance for a second now. He didn't get sucked into a point-scoring battle on the feet, which was very good for him. It's what we said in the breakdown show. It's what we said in the build-up to the fight as well. He went out there to do serious damage on Gane. But do you guys think that perhaps they should run it back for a third time? It would be a little bit unlike the UFC to do that. It's not like them to do an immediate rematch for fights that aren't title fights. But with the amount of potential matchups that there are in the division for either of these guys, it is looking pretty slim. I'm saying yes, Volkov, the Paddy. Paddy the Baddie Volkov. Yeah, mate. The cornrows were fantastic. I mean, he's clearly doing things to make himself a little bit more likable in the sport, and it's really paying off for him as well because he's performing with much more confidence, and it's good to see. It is good to see. Now, I kind of want to head into this page here now to show off the scorecards of the night, because the scorecards kind of shocked myself and Ash a little bit. We felt that round 3 was the closest round to call because there was a bit of a stalemate on the ground. You had Volkov, who was in top position, couldn't really advance, and you all or land anything significant. And you also had Gane, who looked like he wanted to attack a submission off of the bottom, and he had a lot of grip on the shoulder of Volkov, on the left shoulder, if he wanted to pull off a Kimura or use it to sweep Volkov. I think that's probably what his intentions were with that. But it was actually the second round which came quite close, and Judge Adelaide Bird is getting a little bit of stick from MMA people on social media. I was listening to a little bit of Brandon Sharp's podcast today, and he was expressing frustrations in Adelaide Bird's judging. And you know what? I think the bottom line, it comes down to the fact that us fight fans, you can watch fights a certain way, right? Most of the time, first time around, we watch the fights as fans, right? We don't watch it to score. You watch it to score the fight and kind of look at each individual strike thrown of what was most significant, then you can kind of make arguments. Like, I rewatched round 2 earlier on, and I felt like the striking was very, very, very close, actually. I think there was Volkov landed a very good combination with a spinning back fist that grazed Gane, which was very solid, and he landed a body kick immediately after it. There was a moment towards the latter end of the round where Gane actually landed an overhand right clean flush, which was really good. I felt that Volkov's kicking game to the body was solid at times. But I think the deciding factor on the round for Adelaide Bird, and it's not just Adelaide Bird, it's I can't say that guy's name. The third judge, probably a new guy, Jinichiro Kamijo, who, yeah, put that round for Gane as well. It was probably the takedown at the end. All right, he didn't do much from there, but he was able to secure the takedown and advance to side control. So if the striking is hard to differentiate, then you got to go to the grappling element of it, which Gane had. So there's an argument there. So maybe Gane did take the fight. Because I felt he took the first round. Ash and I scored the first round to Gane. We scored the second round to Volkov, and we scored the third round to Volkov for most of that top control. So yeah, I mean, that's just it. Oh, is my mic gone? Hello? Hello? Oh no, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm looking at the wrong source, that's why I nearly freaked out then. Crikey. Yeah, so that's just my take on those fights. Let me know what you think, and smash a like on the video as well, guys. Get your comments in. Would you guys like to see this run back a third time? I certainly would. I wouldn't be mad at it, even though everyone thought that Volkov won. I do have some additional fights if the UFC decide not to go down that route. And I think they're the only two that you could make, if you're not going to run it back, would be Ciryl Gane gets to fight Curtis Blades. Blades is in number 5. Yes, he's coming off a loss, but he's coming off a loss against the interim champ. So maybe he deserves to fight up. And that could be Ciryl Gane. Horrible fight for Gane. Always thought this. And Blades will probably win that fight. I must admit, he's going to do it. Gane has to stop Blades, without a doubt. He's got to go out there and fight like his life depends on it. Really put pressure on Blades, but don't get exposed to takedown at the same time, so it's gonna be difficult. For Volkov, then it's got to be Jailton Almeida if he beats Spivak, because I believe Volkov has beaten Spivak in the past. When was that? Very early on. Okay, I'm lying. Not beating Spivak, but Spivak is in its 7, and doesn't. I guess he does move to 6, doesn't he? Oh, but then it would be crazy for him to get. Didn't he lose to Spivak? Lose to Curtis Blades? Because I feel like if you shouldn't really fight then someone above the guy that you lost to. All right. No. So no, he hasn't. Okay. Maybe Spivak. Maybe I'm just undermining Spivak here. I think that's probably what I'm doing. My bad. My bad indeed. I'm just going to bring up this page. What's another good fight for this heavyweight division was Mick Parkin versus Marcin Tybura. I'm glad that got booked, because I was literally thinking about it when I was preparing for the show, and I'm looking at the heavyweight division. I'm like, Mick Parkin, undefeated, deserves somebody who has been around this heavyweight division for a little while now, and Marcin Tybura would be your guy. Glad to see it. I would have expected him to be on the same card as Tom, but Tom's not going to be fighting in London, so... Spivak, yeah, he's only lost to Gane and Aspinall. But then he's not really fought many ranked guys. He beat Derek Lewis. All right, fair play. To be fair, he did sub Tybura. I'll give him that. All right then. My bad. Sorry, Spivak. I'm not doing you any favors here. But yeah, that's pretty much my piece on the heavyweight division and how it's going to play out. I think there's a few matchups that are currently in motion that have been booked. You've got Pavlovich is taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. That's going to be a fun one. 6 and 7 are fighting each other, as I mentioned a second ago. And then we got some fights still to be made in the bottom half. Matt W says, welcome in, Matt W. You the man, my brother. Good to see you back in the chats. He says, I can't wait for the return of Hamdi at heavyweight. What's you referring to? Who's that? Please enlighten me, brother Matthew. Please enlighten me, brother. Whilst we move on to the co-main event now, and smash like on the video, Matt. Good to see you in. Heading on back to the co-main event between Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian Machado. Gary Rakhmonov getting the decision win. Man, I mean, look, Rakhmonov had to adjust the takedown approach midway for the fight. I felt that was a good move on his part because Machado Gary was difficult to take down using that body lock, and he usually likes to use the body lock against the cage to get his opponents down. He was attempting it quite a lot, and in doing so, he was doing a really... Oh, actually, I know who you're on about, Matt. Yes. Egyptian guy, yes, don't take my... Do you know what? A good shout. Yes, he was on the UFC 308 card. Yes, shout out to Hamdi. Nice one, Matt. Yeah, I mean, one to watch perhaps for next year, for sure. Yeah, I felt in this fight that Shavkat did what he needed to do to press Gary against the fence, to nullify that distance, and cause problems for Gary and his striking. Now, there was elements later on in the fight when Gary was able to use his distance more and land a lot more strikes to the feet, and his movement was on point, and he was able to secure the round. He's definitely kicking himself, although he's very pleased with his performance against Shavkat, but he felt that he just didn't get the win. I think maybe he could have done a little bit better with the movement. It was a close fight. I think people gave Gary a lot of praise after it, to be fair. One thing that was revealed after the fight was to DC. DC revealed that Shavkat tore his MCL in the lead up. But does that mean he's going to fight Bilal Muhammad next? Where does that fit in? And I was thinking, is he going to be out for some time? Are we going to get an alternative opponent, perhaps, for Bilal? Because we know what the UFC are like. They like to move things on a little bit more and book fights, keep booking in title fights, making sure they've got title fights booked in for pay-per-view events. And then looking at the time frame for an MCL break, usually 6+ weeks to recover. So Bilal might have to wait out for Shavkat a little bit. Bilal's just coming back from injury himself. I believe he's training now. So do you think the UFC will wait out for Shavkat, or do you think they'll give the title shot to someone else? And if so, who would that be? If we look at the division, it's very tricky because you can't give it to Usman off of 2 straight losses. Leon Edwards is the last guy Bilal beat in quite decisive fashion, and Edwards is being reserved for the UFC London card. We already know that part. You've got Sean Brady, rematch with Bilal there. Does it sell? All right, look, Sean Brady's on a 2-fight win streak. He looked great against Gilbert Burns, but should he really be deserved a title fight? I think Jack Della Maddalena might be a little bit more popular than he is. You give it to Jack Della Maddalena. I don't know, man. Hard to tell. What do you guys think? Do you think the UFC, it should be Bilal versus Shavkat, and that's the fight we're going to wait out for, or do you think it's going to be someone else? As for Ian Gary's performance and what's next for him, look, props to Ian Gary, man. I've got to give him credit because he's the only fighter to actually take Shavkat to the distance. He was winning the chess match on the feet, and when we saw them kind of separated and in kickboxing range. But talking about kickboxing, if you guys saw a kickboxing affair between the two, who do you think wins? Do you think Shavkat wins, or do you think Ian Machado Gary wins? Because part of me wants to side with Ian on that. I'm not going to lie. But what's next for Ian McGarry? Now, on Ariel's show, he revealed that he won't fight in Europe unless it's in Ireland, which completely rules him out against Leon Edwards, which I think is a stupid move on his part. Look, the UFC would be giving you such a massive favour in giving you Leon Edwards, right? I mean, look, from a fan's perspective, you look at the UFC and you go, well, surely the UFC aren't going to make that move, right? Why would you give Ian Gary a shot against someone who is ranked above the guy you just lost to? Doesn't really make sense. So if you're Ian, you should be absolutely calling for that fight. If you get asked about it on Ariel's show or any of these other shows. Why not headline the London card? That's a banging fight. There's a story there. But, you know, they had the disruption at Leon's gym that time. So there's something the UFC can play with here. Or are we going to get this fight some other time, perhaps? And we got to wait a little bit longer. Personally, how I see it happening is I think Ian Machado Gary fights Colby, the Colby versus Buckley winner, because either of those guys are going to be ranked one step above him. Ian's going to absolutely 100% take that kind of fight. Depends if Colby really goes for it. You know, I think Colby has ducked Ian. I think it's pretty clear about that. I'd also then make Leon Edwards versus Jack Della Maddalena in London. Give us an all-striking affair. I think there was rumours that Ruben Carter geezer on X who just makes up fake fight breaking news posts all the time and people lap onto it and engage with it. He's posted something about Leon Edwards taking on Sean Brady in London. I mean, my thoughts on that. Horrible fight for Leon. However, Leon has beaten wrestlers on home soil before. Can it be done again? It didn't work out last time. Do you really want to give Leon another wrestler if you're the UFC? I think it's a poor move. I think it would be a poor move. So you got to give him Jack Della Maddalena. That fight makes sense. And then I'd give Kamaru Usman Sean Brady. Because that fight, look, you got Sean Brady gets an opportunity to take out a former champion. All right, Kamaru Usman is nowhere near his best at the moment. He's had injuries. He's had a lot of time to heal up, however. So you got kind of new breed versus old breed. Both guys are good wrestlers. Usman's got more of a striking advantage. Can he keep it on the feet? We've seen him against fellow wrestlers before, and he's done work against the likes of Colby, etc. Let's see that fight. The UFC, Hunter Campbell, let's see these fights play out. What do you guys think? In the comments and in the chat. Matt W says, I want Brady to fight Leon in March, and if Brady wins, he gets the title shot, or Gary next. Love your opinion, Matt W, I must admit. I love your opinion. That's a good option. I was just giving you a perfect reason why I don't think that fight should happen. But this is a UFC fan channel where fan opinions matter most, and of course I'm going to cherish your opinion, Matt W. If that is the case, then when do you think Usman's return will be? I mean, look, we've been waiting long enough for Usman's return, haven't we? I think it's got to be pretty damn soon. I know there's been a lot of talks with JDM versus Usman. JDM had injuries that he struggled to heal up with. Hopefully he's healed now. I did see a funny picture of him today with his baby sick all over him. And man, this is so good. It's just such poor timing sort of thing. So maybe perhaps JDM is waiting out for an Usman. Maybe. Because I think Usman on the podcast with Henry Cejudo teased months ago that he was going to be returning. And I'm sure John Anik said on his podcast at one point that he knows who Usman could be fighting next. So maybe it has been them two. And the UFC are going to make it soon. So maybe timeline doesn't add up for. I mean, it could add up for Brady. If Brady's helpful, if Brady is healthy, he's a bit injury prone as well. So that's why you should give them both. I mean, I don't know. I guess it jeopardizes the fight in a way, doesn't it? If you're the UFC and you can't trust either Usman or Brady, then I don't know. I say make the fight anyway, and you just substitute it for another fight. Matt W says, or Brady versus Usman, and winner gets title shot. 3 wins is enough for a Bilal rematch if Shavkat isn't ready. Yeah, I mean, look, this queues up contenders in the welterweight division. It really does. Because, look, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see Jack Della Maddalena back in there. I'm a bit of a fan of his, but we've not seen him in a while. Since UFC 299 back in March. But look, there you go, 1 year on. And he's not quite ready. Both Brady and Della Maddalena aren't quite ready for a title fight yet because they've both just beaten Gilbert Burns. Yes, Gilbert Burns is a former title challenger, but Gilbert Burns just hasn't looked his best, really, as of late. All right, he had that really slick, smooth submission win against Neil Magny, but other than that, you know, all right, to be fair, he did win those first 2 rounds against Jack Della Maddalena. I'll give him credit there. That's fair. You know, he's just been a little bit unlucky with recent results, should we say. And that Brady fight, I think he took injured, I believe. Rightly saying. You know. But still, you know, you're as good as your last fight at the end of the day. So, yeah, I think both Brady and Della Maddalena need to fight a Leon Edwards or an Usman. And then, look, you've got 3 contenders that Bilal needs to fight. Which I imagine Bilal is going to return in the summer against Shavkat. That'd be my guess. Alrighty. Moving on from the welterweight division then and on to the main event. Surprise, mate. This pick was... I got completely right. Round 2, submission for Alejandro Pantoja. We knew heading into this that his grappling was going to be a big advantage and a serious factor in this fight. The question was just always going to be down to whether Pantoja was able to take Asakura down. Because in previous tape that I've watched of Asakura in Ryzen, he was very good with his takedown defense. However, one thing I mentioned in the breakdown show was Ryzen compete in a ring. A ring is completely different to a cage. The cage is much bigger. And I felt that kind of worked in Pantoja's favor there. You know, there's a lot of surface to press your opponent against. Whereas a ring is just a little bit awkward, really. You know, you don't want to fall through it. I believe those ropes are pretty solid, but, you know, there's a lot of, I guess, things that you can't do against the cage or against the ropes that are effective against the cage. So, look, Pantoja passed the test in flying colours, but what's next for him is a big question because there's not a lot there for him, really. He called out Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson, which, all right, look, if you want a big challenge, shoot your shot. You've racked up. However, who's got the... I don't remember defenses. Who's got the defense record in flyweight? I mean, it's obviously Mighty Mouse, but who's got second? Title reign. I think that's boxing. Good. You see flyweight title reign. So Henry Cejudo has 1 defense. Figueiredo, I think, has 1 or 2 defenses. Anyway, I can't see it at the moment. Usually it comes up. Title reign. Wrong page. Bad. UFC records. Aha, here we go. Maybe I can get this in your picture. Dun, 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 dun. Let's perhaps put that in. Here we go. Oh, bloody adverts. Oh, that's really annoying. Actually, I'm doing it the wrong way. Let's add in another thing. That would make life a bit easier, so then we can share this moment together. Yeah. Browser. Oh, I've got so many windows open. There we go. UFC list of UFC records. Bosh. Don't know if you guys can see that or not, to be honest. I thought I'd try and be helpful. Try and be helpful over here. Winning, most wins. Oh my god, there's so many records. I just want flyweight. Most finishes, decisions. Most title reigns. Longest streak. I mean, we know it's Mighty Mouse. Hey. Okay, I might just abandon this idea. I thought, oh, there we go. There we go. We might have it. Simultaneous, pound for pound. Oh, is that pound for pound of all time? Interesting. There's some interesting stats on Wikipedia I never knew we actually had. Yeah, I mean, look, we could be here for ages, couldn't we, guys? Yeah, it's got to be Figueiredo or a Pantoja, right? It's got two now for Pantoja, and he's fought most and beaten most of the guys in the top division anyway. All right, okay, we'll pass. Smash that like button, guys. Smash that like button. Let's take us back here. Yeah, so where was I now? Yeah, so what is next for Alejandro Pantoja? Oh, Matt W says, I've never had the privilege to watch a live DJ fight. I started UFC 2019. Does he beat Pantoja currently? Oh, great question. Great question, Matt W. I mean, look, first of all, DJ, I was saying during the watch, I don't think DJ is in a stage where, you know, he's motivated to come back and fight. And he said, I think to Ariel, that he's quite a yes or no kind of guy. He's not a guy to kind of ponder for a little while on an idea. He's either in or he's out, and he's completely out. He said, my black ass is out on this. And look, there's nothing left for him to prove in this division. Would the current Pantoja beat Mighty Mouse? I'm telling you now, this idea of this fight is so damn close. It is hard to pinpoint a winner. It really is. Because when you look at DJ's submission game was so legit at the time. And his striking is so legit as well. Like, he's probably one of the best all-round mixed martial artists we've ever seen in the UFC. Just look at some of his finishes. That's all I'm going to say is go back and watch some of his finishes. Adriano Moraes guy, don't really know much about him from ONE FC. I'm guessing he might have some grappling to his name. The fights with Henry Cejudo were very back and forth. The first time around, he got the finish. Second was a split decision. Very, very close fight. Henry's, of course, got more of a wrestling background than a jiu-jitsu game. And Pantoja's very good at... He's just very good in transition. He's very quick. But so is Mighty Mouse as well. Mighty Mouse has got that ability about him where if he gets taken down, it's like the mat against his back is just scalding hot lava. Like, he is exploding ever so quickly to get out of those positions, and that's what made him really good. His fight against Horiguchi was just insane as well. The way he beat uh, Ray Borg, that suplex into an armbar. Look, who does stuff like that, man? His title reign was unreal. And I know at the time, the flyweight division wasn't as developed as it is now. I just think it's such a shame the UFC traded him. It's probably one of the worst decisions they've ever done. Now, don't get me wrong. I've said on the channel before, you can make an argument for that because we got Jorge Masvidal becoming a massive star because he knocked out Ben Askren, right? The way he did. And he gave us some exciting fights to follow after that. And he got really popular. Whereas DJ, of course, is in that flyweight division, which is full of guys who don't get a lot of love for some reason, which is really annoying because they are all very talented mixed martial artists. And it's very hard to pull off, I think, submissions. And the fact that DJ was able to pull off submissions against flyweights was insane. Pantoja, DJ, it goes all 5 rounds. Even with DJ in his prime. I just believe maybe DJ's wrestling might be a tad better than Pantoja's, but Pantoja's probably it's going to cancel out anyway because he's so good at transitioning. But not only that, he's very good at transitioning to the back after getting taken down as well. Yeah, I think DJ could hand with him in the clinch and in with the takedowns, which leaves you on the feet. Then I think DJ would be very good on the feet. He's very smart, high fight IQ, and maybe he'd edge it overall in the fight. But going back to present day, what is next for Pantoja? Look, you got to bring back Muhammad Mokaev. The UFC dropped the ball with that one, I think, by getting rid of him. Asakura shouldn't have got the title fight this past weekend. It should have been Muhammad Mokaev, who's undefeated. It's a big challenge for Pantoja. We've learnt today that apparently the first fight back in the Brave organization for Mokaev has fallen through. So look, if you're the UFC, get him back now. Let's get Pantoja in there midway through 2025 and let's make it happen. If you're not going to do that though, there is another option that you guys may have not thought about. And that's Askar Askarov, who's the last guy to beat Pantoja, which I believe is in 2020. And I think Askar Askarov would be kicking himself that he left the organization for something else. I actually don't know what happened there. There was got to be some kind of disagreement because he just disappeared off the face of the earth. I don't know if he failed a drug test and they cut him. Like, it was so long ago. But and he wasn't the most exciting fighter though at the same time. So I don't know. If you're the UFC, that's got to be one of your options. There's a story there to run with as well. So why not? For Kai Asakura, if I go into the division, rankings not been updated. Asakura apparently is in at 14 for you guys, perhaps in the US. If he's in at 14, Joshua Van has also entered the rankings as well. I would pair them two up together. However, Joshua Van has called out Tim Elliott today. But I think, and you can see there that Tim Elliott is ranked in at number 10. He's also coming off of a win. But I personally think that Tim Elliott needs to fight Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson, one of the most active fighters this year. Surely he's going to be wanting to return pretty soon. I hope he's currently healthy. He's on a 4-fight win streak. Come off a win against Sumadaji. Give him somebody like a Tim Elliott. Test him against somebody who's got a bit more experience. That's what I would do because Johnson's fought young guys or guys at similar age to him. He's beaten Joshua Van for the starters. Beat Jake Hadley, very young, similar age, and he beat Sumadaji as well, who's 28. He is 33. Oh wow, he's 33. Okay. Maybe he's just young in terms of experience and overall UFC experience, I would say. Yeah. Test him against the Tim Elliott. He's been around the game for so long. Fought the who's who in the division, even the champ, or the former champ in Demetrious Johnson. That's what I would personally do. Or it could be someone like a Steve Erceg, but that's a big jump for Johnson. Would be. We've not seen Tagir Ulanbekov in a minute, literally over a year. Don't know when he's returning. Maybe perhaps he should be fighting Steve Erceg. You got Asu Amabayev, who's got 17 fight win streak. He's killing it, but I don't think he's ready for a title shot. I mean, look, I know that Asakura got the nod, and I guess in a way it was the UFC doing something different, right? Giving Ryzen a little bit of promo in a way. I mean, there could be something happening behind the scenes. I think the UFC might just absorb Ryzen as a promotion, you know, because it kind of felt like it. The fact that they brought Asakura over, and they might be intending to grow the UFC overseas a little bit more to compete with the ONE FC, etc. Might be in their business plans for 2025. But yeah, Almabayev with a win against Nicolau was great, but I think he should be tested against someone else who's like an Amir Albazi. That's what I would give. That's let's see what's next then, shall we? For the rest of the show. That's all I've got for the flyweight division. Let us know what you think about these matchups and where your place is at with the overall flyweight division. That'd be good to know as well. I'm going to head into the back to the news show here, the headlines scene here. Let's pull that option down here and talk about. Let's talk about my thoughts on UFC 312 announcement, which was made this past weekend. We will see Dricus du Plessis rematch Sean Strickland. Some of us felt that the UFC might slot in their Khamzat Chimaev instead, and that maybe Sean Strickland wasn't 100% ready. It is going to be Strickland. Khamzat might be there in the audience. We've heard that as well. It is going to be in Australia. If it's going to be in Australia, surely they're not going to allow Khamzat over there. So I don't know why I read that earlier on today. But it's the rematch that makes a lot of sense for that card. I think it could have been other options, but I just don't think timing makes sense. And that the fact that Wei Zhang versus Tatiana Suarez is finally happening. I'm glad this fight is finally. It's got to happen. I know Tatiana Suarez has been injury prone and stuff lately, but we need to see this fight because this is the ultimate test for Weili in this division, and this promises to be a very good card in Sydney, Australia. How's it going to go? I know Dricus came out and said, look, this time it's going to be murder in there. I hope Strickland adapts things a little bit more, maybe initiates takedowns, I think, to surprise Dricus. I think that's what he needs to do. Dricus's unpredictability showed a close fight, close outing last time out, and I think we need a bit more of a decisive winner this time, for sure. Prediction on it, I honestly don't know. But as I keep saying to people, I think I would rather see Dricus du Plessis win because the fight with Khamzat Chimaev might be a little bit more entertaining, in my opinion. I think that Khamzat has a better chance at winning against Strickland. Don't get me wrong, I think the build-up and the hype around the fight would be amazing, right? But I just can see Chimaev winning. Whereas against Dricus, he's got great unpredictable striking. And I think that might be an element along with his takedown defense, which is all questions, I think, for us fight fans. Man, I'm getting late. So yeah, kind of my takes on it. Tatiana Suarez, I believe, can beat Weili Zhang. I think she can, but Weili's got to be quick on the feet. She's got to avoid takedowns at all cost. She has worked her wrestling in recent years, and it's looked really good. But Suarez is the ultimate test in that area of the game. Zhang's got to keep it standing. She's going to fight with her, bust her up in there, and maybe she can get a late finish. Or she edges a decision. I like him. All right, cool. Moving on then, as I clear that, to my prediction for the UFC 313 main event, which will take place at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Now, some people think that this fight could be an Alex Pereira versus Magomedov Ankalaev, right? Makes sense timing-wise. Okay. UFC are going to want to book Pereira again, for sure. Start off 2025 a big way. Big test. Makes sense. However, there has been a recent clue to suggest it would be a different headliner. Now, I'm going to pop this image up here of Ilia Toporia's brother, who recently said on social media, I wanted to give you some news about my UFC debut. Initially, the debut was going to be at the end of this year, but due to decisions of the promoter, I have been given the date at the beginning of 2025. Right? So why have the UFC delayed the debut of featherweight champion Ilia Topuria, the brother? Why have they delayed it? It's their decision. If he was ready to go, why have they delayed that decision? And why is he returning early 2025? Cards like UFC 311, already booked up. UFC 312, already booked up. Would you put him on a fight night? Maybe, perhaps. But if you want to hype him up, wouldn't you put him on the same card as his brother, who's the champion? Right? So if you're looking at early 2025, are you not looking at UFC 313 in March? My guess is Ilia Topuria will defend his belt against Alexander Volkanovski for the second time. They're going to run it back because that's what was promised. Ilia promised the rematch as well. He said in the octagon he was willing to do it. But also in the past, he said he wasn't willing to go to Sydney, Australia and defend his belt and give Volk that opportunity. Which is why we've got Duplessis versus Strickland fighting in Australia instead. Right? That's the only other option. There's two major clues here that I've given you guys. So my guess would be 314 will be Pereira versus Ankalaev. Because I don't think they'll put Pereira and Topuria. Topuria, who's recently become a big star in the UFC now. They're not going to put those two on the same card together. With 100% not happening. I believe 313 will be Topuria Volkanovski as the headliner. Co-main event will be Valentina Shevchenko versus Manon Fiorot. Apologies I don't have that image for you guys at the moment. But Fiorot has called out Shevchenko and said, you need to sign the contract. My guess is the UFC are waiting for that fight to be finalized. Then eventually they will announce those two fights for 313 in Las Vegas. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section and let me know in the chats as well. I'm just reading messages because getting notifications on for various media outlets on X to see if there was an update on Paddy Pimblett. I think Paddy Pimblett is going to fight on a pay-per-view next, and he's not going to be at UFC London. That's my another insider. Taking us back then. Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in the chats. Those who have. Smash a like on the video if you've not done so already. And we will join you this weekend, or join us this weekend for the last fight night of the year. Smash the notifications bell as well. We've got lots of content coming your way over the Christmas period to keep you up to date. So make sure you're up to date with everything that we're putting out, and give it a like, give it a watch, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And we'll see you this weekend. Ciao for now, folks.